Hey everybody, it's Rory from Ansgear. We are upstairs with the brand new LUXE IDOL. I've got it sitting up here. I've got the new gun. I've got a TM40 next to me also. We'll bring that in just a second. But let's open up the the IDOL and kind of get a look-see at what's going on right here. So as you can see, the packaging is brand new for the IDOL right here. So they've gone away from that faux carbon fiber looking case and gone with a nice smooth sleek looking case right here. It does have some strapping on there, so if you needed to attach it to anything, you could. You got straps. It even comes with a little hook inside there. We'll show you that in a minute. But a nice solid smooth sleek looking case right there. Zippers on the side to go all the way around, so we can unzip and come across right there. One thing they did get rid of, which I'm seeing on here, is a stitched on handle. So the other ones before had a handle where you could grab onto it and it was stitched to it. That's not on this anymore. I don't really know if you need that on there. We open it up, we see two setups right here. So this side has got our barrels, so our barrel tip, barrel back, and our two inserts that the gun comes with. And this side over here has our gun. Now both of these sides come out. So our gun side, like this, we can lift this whole thing out and it comes out. And it's got its own little, I'm gonna call it a little sleeping bag, a little pouch that is weather resistant. The material is weather resistant, so it's gonna be water resistant. It is not waterproof. It's water resistant. You have those all-weather zippers on the side to help keep stuff out. So, you know, if you're having to go from car to field or wherever and you're having to trek and you're going to be going through mud, rain, wind, whatever it happens to be, all this stuff is going to be protected, especially if you're carrying this by itself and not inside the case right here. Also have some ties if you need to tighten this up a little bit. You know, we can cinch these down so that they're a little bit more holding onto whatever is underneath there. So gun on this side. This side over here, we talked about our barrels. I'm gonna go ahead and slide this out. And then you can see, I mean, you can switch these back and forth. It's not specific on what side they need to go on right there. In this one, same kind of case. It says DLX on it. This one has a little ID pouch on it right there, so you could slide in some info of yourself, how cool you are, whatever you want to put in there. This one just says DLX on the back of it right there. We've got our barrels right here. So we've got our barrel back. And I'm going to pull these out. And as I get this out, I'm going to bring over, well, let's skip the barrel back for a second. Let me just move these to the side. And move these to the side. And let's look at what comes inside there. So we can get like the bulk of it out of the way. So in there, I'll fold this open. So in the top little zipped area right here, we have parts kit right there. I think they're just using a generic parts kit at this point because a lot of the O-rings are going to be the same. Because a lot of this stuff, like that little piece right there, this red piece, which holds the battery in on the TM40, it's not in this new gun right there. So a lot of these things, I'm sure this is just a blanket kit that they're throwing in there for now, and that will change once the production run starts to come through. On this one here, we've got barrel sleeve and cable right there. So we have our charging cable and we have our barrel sleeve. Get back in there. Over on this side right here, we've got that little loop that we talked about earlier. So if you really want a carrying strap on the gun, you can hook these in and give yourself a little strap right there. Got some grease. And then on the bottom one, we've got our Allen key set our charging block right there. So charging block for your charging, obviously. Makes sense, right? Charging block for chargers. Got it. All right, so that's the stuff right there. Let me put this back. Let me just move it out of the way. We'll put it over here. We'll leave it in the screen. We'll put it over there for now. And then we're going to talk about barrels real quick. So I have a TM40 right here. I'm going to take this off. I'm going to put this down. And I'm going to move this one. Actually, we'll open them up. I'll put that there. And then we'll bring these ones in as well. So something obvious, very different from the beginning is the new back right here. On the TM40 back, it has these holes that were machined into it right here, slots. Slots are a good place for dirt and debris and paint, things like that. So on the new one, no more slots. They've just machined some design into the outside of it here, but there's no pass-through cuts on the barrel back anymore. Therefore, you're going to have less dirt debris getting inside there, causing any issues. Obviously, the dirt that goes inside here is not going to get inside of your insert, but it can get in there so it doesn't let your insert slide out. It can scratch it up. When you take your insert out and then you've got that debris and then you slide your insert back in, sure, you can be getting stuff inside of there at that point. So just to eliminate that issue, got rid of it. So now it's just one, I won't say one smooth because it's definitely not smooth on there at all, but it's definitely no holes through it anymore. The tips, looking sort of the same. It's the new XL setup right here. They've moved the logo from here down to here. So it's like the V2 XL fronts right there. These are compatible with all the other XL fronts that are out there. The two inserts that you get with it are not labeled size-wise, as in a number. They say, you can read that right there. I'm going to zoom in. You see that on there? One says large bore, one says small bore. So this gives you the opportunity to take some paint and see which one's going to bore the best out of the two that they give you. Small bore probably being somewhere around the 682, I guess, and large bore probably being in the 899190 size out there. I don't know. Doesn't say anywhere, but it is compatible with the XL kit. So if you want to be more precise, you want to find ones that are exact, pick up the XL kit, like this red 687 one right there, and then you can throw them right in. So compatible with all the XLs, but what you get is a small and a large bore right there. So that's just a heads up to everybody that's going to be picking that up. And they're like, wait, what size is it? Large. The size is large or small, depending on how you want to look at it. Threading on the barrel has stayed at what is lovingly referred to as impulse threads or ion threads. I think people more getting into this sport now call it Lux thread, but that's just what it is. So it's a large, thicker thread. It has two starting points, so there's more opportunities for the barrel to engage and screw in. Plus, since it's a larger thread, it holds better and you don't have to turn it as much. So it requires less work right there. Quicker barrels on and off. All right, so I'm going to move the barrels out of the way. I'm going to just stick this one in here. I'm going to put this one over here. Well, at the end, we'll do a weigh up with both guns and see what our weights are. But I'm just going to move that kind of up and out of the way right there. I'm going to come back out a little bit here. I got all sorts of like information right here. We're going to go through the fine, or not the fine points, but we're going to go through the basic points here. Let's move this over here. We got that, we got that. Actually, I'm going to put this thing here. I don't want this barrel to roll off, so I'm going to just put that off to the side. All right, so we've got our gun, our standard gun right there. And then we've got the idol. And here it is, right there. So I've already had a chance to shoot this gun, run around with it and everything. I think it's great. Super fun. We did efficiency tests with it. Got all sorts of shots out of a 68-45. Really, really good setup on the gun right here. We'll start from the top, kind of work our way down, move it around from the front and back right there. So lever, still the kind of same setup right there. The way that they've put the pin through, one of the problems with the, I don't want to say problems, I guess, one of the frustrations with the TM40, and for a lot of people who are looking for customizing the gun after the fact of purchase, is when it came to the lever on the top right here, the pin is pressed in from the top, but if you look at the bottom, there's no hole on the bottom right here. So to get the pin out, in order to send this off to an anodizer or something like that, you'd have to drill a hole in the top of this one to be able to knock the pin out. Now they've changed that, where the pin is held in. You can see that underneath there. There's a little clip that holds the pin in. And if you ever need to take that out, you take the C-clip off, the pin can slide up, and then you can pull it all out. So they've done a lot of thinking on this gun for what people might do to it down the road. So when it comes to re-anodizing or something like that, they've made it easy for you to take the gun apart and do that. And we'll talk about some of those things as we go along, but they've really thought about that from the beginning right there. Another thing was this jewel that's on the front right here. This jewel sits over a screw that just basically plugs up a hole so that you can get through to another screw on the inside right there. That's been changed as well. So now we've got a little insert, an aluminum insert right there that is held in place by the feed neck being on, which just blocks that port going through there. So no longer do people lose this jewel and then have just kind of a weird hole at the front of their gun. So that's been taken care of as well. Front grip. So the front grip, I'm going to take this front grip off so that everybody can see. So same Allen key to remove the front grip as before. So that you take this off, this piece slides out, and then our front grip can unhinge and come off right there. Now, this comes off of here. An issue that we have seen before, or could potentially happen, is if this top section of the TM40 front grip was to become malformed, bent, dropped, and flattened, any sort of thing can happen. Somebody doesn't put it together right, and it indexes into this little indexer right here, and this thing bends up as well. Because this is sticking up and is kind of part of the breech area right here at the front where the barrel screws in, this possibly can have an effect on the barrel going in. It can make it so the barrel won't thread in or anything like that. So now on the new one, that section is all its own. This no longer interfaces or interferes with that section right there. So regardless of what happens to the top of this, it's not going to affect that lower lip of where the barrel's going to thread in. So it can't have any problems right there. So whether you drop it, smash it, crush it, bend it, whatever it's going to be, the barrel will still be able to get into the front of the gun right there. Looking at it from here, the reg pieces, the reg assembly setup is the same on there still. The only thing we'll talk about as we go along, they've eliminated on the new idol all of the plugs or ports that were Loctited in at one place, except for one. So these screws on the front right here of the TM40, these screws are blocking passages that, air passages running through the gun. If any of the Loctite failed in there, if you're playing in temperatures above 110 degrees, that could happen. The Loctite could start to fail, and these can leak. On the new gun, any passage that has been plugged or needed to be plugged is now done without Loctite, except for one. There is still one that needed it, just because the thread capacity that they had was too short to do something else, and so they needed Loctite to do it. And that is underneath here. So if you had to come through the top right here, there's a passage that goes through, and there's a screw that sits right about there that they needed to put a Loctite plug in. That is it. That's the only one. These ones at the front now, there's basically a set screw that goes in, and then a rubber, I'm gonna call it a gasket, but like a rubber plate that goes in, and then another screw goes on top of that, and it squashes that gasket and causes the seal inside there. So to get into those places, all you gotta do is just remove the screws, and then you can get in there. You don't have to heat it up or do anything. So only one Loctited port now in the gun. So let's put that back together. All right, let's move along to the eye covers. We can go that direction. All right, eye covers still hold on in the same way. There's still a little latch. You slide it forward, push on the eye cover, pop it up, and get it out. Same thing for this one. Push it forward, pop it down, lift it up. The eye cover is definitely larger than the other one, but not like by a tremendous amount. See if I can overlay these two on top of each other. They're a different shape, but it is a bigger, just overall, I'm not going to be able to really show that, I don't think. Kind of. It's just a bigger footprint. But the cool thing about this is these magnets that are in here to help secure the eye cover on with the latch on the new one are not pressed into place or pinned into place. There is a little piece right here that works as a little toggle that holds the magnets in place. So if you ever wanted to take the magnets out for any reason, you just take that little piece out and the magnets will slide out, and you could replace them or take them out for anodizing or whatever you need to do. So you don't have to drill them out or smash them out or anything like that anymore. They will actually just come out. Eye wire looks to be about the same right there. Still using that same ribbon style eye wire that runs between the two. Same detent system right there. These detents work really, really well. And then the same like sprung latch that's on the front. We'll put that back on there. And that can go in there. And that's going to be the same for both sides right there. Let's, before we pull the bolt out, look at the trigger. So the trigger shape has changed. So you've got this nice smooth one on the TM40. Now I've got a very subtle like deuce style trigger. Not really like lumpy or anything like that. Still has that super smooth action on it. And like they did on the Era, there was an issue with amps. Well, not just the amp, but the amps and before, and the TM40, the ICE, where if you adjusted the trigger to the wrong spot or too far in a certain direction, you could potentially, when pulling the trigger, smash the micro switch and bend it off the board, break it off the board by over adjusting the trigger. That has been changed now. You can no longer do that because of a repositioning of the micro switch and the support that they have in there. That's not an issue anymore. So always be careful when adjusting your trigger to begin with. But now it's one less thing you have to worry about right there. Let's take the bolts out. And I'll move these off to the side a little bit. And kind of come in here. So from this standpoint right here, if I move that there, the length of the bolt, overall length of the bolt, looks to be a tiny bit shorter. You can see these O-ring placements. If I line up these three O-rings on the back side right here, the back of the part, or the back is different. The back section of the bolt is the same, lining these three O-rings up, but the front is shortened up a little bit. This is something that confuses people all the time. There's a slot right here, all right? You can see it right there. There's nothing on it. A lot of times people will come in and they'll be like, I'm missing an O-ring. There's a slot there. I should have something in it. You shouldn't. There's an O-ring that sits right here that can be moved into this slot right here. And if I move it into this slot, you can see that it opens up these holes right here. So this allows air to escape out quicker. If you're looking for a faster cycling rate, you can move this off and it allows the pressure holding the bolt back to get out quicker. If we take this O-ring and we put it back on here, it covers up those holes and it restricts the air escape, giving you a smoother shot right there. So depending on what you're looking for, smoother, quieter, faster, louder, whatever happens to be, you can adjust that. Used to be that O-ring would just be, well, like it is right here. It's just floating around on here. You could have it down here. You could have it up here. When it's up front like this, it's covering those holes. But if you move it down here, then it's off those holes. Sometimes people will come in with it and they'll be like, I got a O-ring that's floating around. What is that for? Well, that's what it's for. They just put that groove on there to give people a spot to put it so that they didn't think that something was wrong. One thing that we definitely noticed that's different is on the front right here. When the bolt is in the back position, like it is right now, or the retracted position, now you've got a flat face to it right there. So if we had any issues with smaller bore paint dropping in and being able to nestle back into the bolt on the TM40, that can cause an issue with the next ball in the stack being able to drop further down and potentially causing an issue, or the eyes not to read properly. But now that when the bolt retracts, there's this face on there that keeps it from the ball from being able to roll backwards. It's just helping to handle different sizes in paint, plus more brittle paint stuff. So they've done some things to the bolt also to help out with mechanical cycling. So when you're switching or going with a mech setup to make it a better bolt system for mech setups. As far as efficiency goes, I got great numbers efficiency wise, but none of the changes really were done for efficiency. They were done for cycling rates and for mech setups right there, and to handle brittle paint and smaller paint. Really, those were going for mech setups, small paint, brittle paint, all in trying to fix those issues right there. That's it. I think we can take the front of this off and you can see the differences on the front side right there. There we go. All right, I'm gonna put this back together. We'll move it over here. Same with that one. Move it over here. Bolt, like I said, the bolt issues were mech setups, odd size paint, brittle paint. Having issues with that. All right, let's do one other thing before we take the frame off. The lever. So the lever on the TM40, that's as far as it goes right there. When you fold it out, it doesn't go any further than that. People had, an issue when they degassed their gun and then they sat their gun down, then it would go psh, and you gas up again. So that is something they were looking to change. Plus they switched out the material for that. So now the lever is recessed inside, so it doesn't sit out from the bottom of the frame, or the bottom of the ASA. And then when you flip it up, you can set the gun down and it's not going to engage that at all. So that's a different setup right there. And the cam works directly on the pin, so it's pushing the pin in a linear path back and forth. So regardless of what tank pressure you're putting in, this is still going to open that pin valve. Super simple, super easy right there. And it snaps and locks into place right there. No magnet or anything like that, just boop, locks in. All right. From the outside, looking at this, snap screws, no screws. Regular screws, no screws. So no screws on the grip anymore. They got rid of all the screws that are on there. We're going to go and pull this off. So that's the way that comes off. Same thing for this one. Same design. Flip that up. Slide that back, and off she comes. So if we want to look at it from the bottom on here, so they changed out the connectors on the eye. So up here and up here, they're going with a I think it was like with a spring inside there, or a leaf spring or something like that. I'm not sure exactly what they called it, but they changed it to be more robust in there. So no longer do you get any kind of fade or fatigue on those springs where maybe they won't touch anymore. They're a stronger, more resilient setup in there, so it's always making good contact in there. So that's something they changed. The shape and how the eye goes in, it hasn't changed, it's all the same. Coming back to this side right here, you can see that, I don't want that to fall over, so I'm going to just set that down like that. I'm going to come in a little bit further. So on this section coming back here, there's the magnet for the trigger. This magnet obviously pinned in place, can't get it out. This magnet has a little wire clip on the front. You can lift that clip up right there. Lean that forward, you can see that clip maybe down in there. Yeah. And then you can just slide the magnet out. Probably one of the I don't want to say the best changes, or one of my favorite changes to these guns. This little piece right here on the original frame, right there. So this piece is Loctited in to the frame, and it's the transfer port between the air coming from the frame and going into the body right there. You can find issues with that. Loctite breaks down, starts leaking, O-rings are bad, whatever happens to be. They've changed that. As you can see on this one, that's not in there anymore. It's actually right here, and I can take this and I can wiggle it out. Now they're using just a stainless steel insert right here that's got an O-ring on the top and the bottom. What this allows for is movement or play in the frame. So if the frame ever becomes loose for some reason and it's not perfectly set up on there, this will still allow the gun to function. It can shoot, fire, it won't leak, even with it being slightly loose. This same connection they put into the eras, we've seen that in the era that just came out, but is also in the connection between the ASA and the frame body right here. So this same style is in both spots right there. So if this becomes loose, still will gas up, won't leak. If this connection between here and here, your ASA becomes loose, still is going to gas up, not an issue right there. So, I mean, obviously you don't want to be playing with loose parts on your gun, but if for some reason you took a nasty slam and it shifted or something like that, the gun would still seal up and still work. I think that's awesome right there. The super good benefit. The linkage system and the solenoid setup right there, still the same. No wires on the solenoid. There's the little plate on the bottom right here, which connects with the board, and that's how you get your transfer or your electricity through right there. All right, so let's move from here. So I'll move that up, and then we'll look at this right here. So I'm going to take the grips off of this, and then I'm going to take the other side off. I'm not going to disassemble too much of that one. We will kind of pull apart some of the new one though, just so you can kind of see what's going on here. But I want you guys to be able to see inside on both of them. So I'll keep these on this side. When the grips come off on this one, we've got our battery that is inside here, and then we've got this spacer that keeps the battery rigid and in place. And we've also got the front of the grip right here has this raised section that pushes against the battery to help keep the battery locked in place. There were some issues with the original runs on the TM40 where the batteries were coming out and slightly disconnecting. Even for a second, the battery might jump or bump and become disconnected from the board. The gun was shut off. So they did some other things to solve those problems, but now they've really gone ham with it and changed that. So I'm going to turn this one on from the outside here. Really, We're going to power this one on. A couple things I want to tell you real quick about this set I have right here. This grip is not the production grip that is going to be done. The window's going to be a little bit clearer right here. This is a pre-production grip. All the guns coming will have a different, the same but different grips on them right there. So like I said, this gun, the grips on it are not final production grip. And when I'm saying the grip, I'm talking about the rubber grip right here. But we're going to turn it on. And I want you to listen to it as I turn it on because it's got a different voice now. But it also says something a little different because the frame is off the gun, which is kind of cool. So listen.
Powering on. Welcome to the LUXE experience. Battery level 40%. Firing mode NXL. Solenoid circuit fault.
So it told me that I had a solenoid circuit fault right there. And the reason I'm getting that fault is because the board that's inside here is not connected to the solenoid right there. So it's telling me, hey, there's a problem right there. There's a solenoid issue right there. Now, I don't know how many other issues it can detect right there. It might detect an eye issue right there. Maybe if the eye's not plugged in or something like that. I haven't had a chance to really get into it yet as far as what it will tell me or what's going on. But it has a lot of that stuff on there. So a nice bright screen on the side right there. This is daylight visible, this screen. And with the new grip on, with the new window, it's going to be even better right there. So definitely daylight visible. As you can see, they've moved the grip or the screen high up on the grip so that when, regardless of if you're left-handed, if you're shooting right-handed, the screen is not inhibiting your grip. It's out of the way right there. On other guns, we see a screen right here, which if you're left-handed, you might lose some of that grip right there. But with this one being up high, it's up on the top right there. It's not too big. It's not too small. I think it's the perfect size screen right there. Not taking up a lot of space or anything like that. So that being said, I'm going to pull the grips off of the gun. Now, I've done this two different ways. I've pulled the grips off when I first got it, but one of I think the most unique features about this new frame setup is the back piece. This whole section along the back right here unsnaps and comes off. So if you need to get to your battery, if you need to get to the charging port, it just comes right off. Whoop. So here's our battery. Here's our charging point, the light right there, which obviously shines through there. And there's a nubbin at the top right there, which locks in and then allows this to snap together. The grips, like I said, these aren't final production, so they're a little flared out. They don't seat properly. Well, they don't seat the best. I don't want to say properly because you can get them to go in, but these ones you kind of have to manhandle and get them to fit into the right spot. The production ones will just be right as they should and go into the right spot. So while I'm working on this, I want to take this off. And you can see that. That's our grip right there. You can see all these channels that are put onto here. This is to keep debris from getting in. So your water, your paint, your dirt, your sand, whatever it happens to be, keep as much of that as possible from getting inside to the gun. And then when this is out like this, I can turn that screen on. You can see how bright that screen is right there. I'll turn it off.
Powering off.
And then I'm going to turn it back on into programming.
Powering on.
I don't think I held it.
Programming
Oh, yeah, I
mode.
didn't.
Main
So you can
menu.
see
Firing mode.
how the programming menu is. You can just go through all that. All your options are in there.
Motor delay.
So if you need to get in there and change all your bits,
Software version.
you can do all that stuff. So super cool,
Firing
easy to
mode.
do. Another cool thing about this, I'm going to shut it off, is all of the parts, the screen, the speaker, the battery, obviously, the board, the eye wiring, they're all individual parts. So if something goes bad with them, you change out that part right there. You don't need to change the whole thing out. You can see there's our screen right there. Tuck that piece back in there. I'm going to show you the battery. On the original one, not the original one, on the TM40, we would pull out our little battery bar there, and then you kind of lift the battery, you nudge it up, and it unlocks from the bottom, and then it slides right out. When we put it in, we put it in, lock the bottom down, and then put our spacer back in there. But now, with this here, we're gonna, this little tab, this little wire that you see right here, we're gonna fold that wire up, and then our battery slides right out. Same kind of like mechanism that they're using on the solenoid right here to lock the solenoid down in place is now going to lock our battery in place. Just slides right in there, and then pinches that down, keeps that battery in place. Our charging port sits right above that, right there. So when you need to charge the gun, you don't need to take the grips, the rubber grips off. You just pop the back of the housing off, plug it in, charge it up right there. The board, one big difference you see on the board, besides what we talked about with the the trigger switch. That's what I was trying to get at right there. The micro switch being moved. The big difference right here is the I-wire positioning. So our ribbon before ran from the front down on the outside of the board and plugged in on the outside. Now, when people were putting their grips on and off, sometimes they would catch the ribbon and then rip it out of there. A lot of people didn't realize that inside where the ribbon runs on the old one, there is a spot for it to sit underneath so that it stays locked in place underneath there and it doesn't sit up high. A lot of people didn't know that, and so they're putting their grips on and off and they end up ripping that ribbon out of there. Well, on the new one, the ribbon starts in the front, runs along here, but then goes inside, and it drops down on the inside of the frame. So your I-wire ribbon is not out here anymore. It's off. Plus, the connection between the board and the ribbon used to be a slot where you had to plug in the ribbon to the side right here. You had to like force it in there. Now it's on those sprung connectors. So when you push the board down and lock the board in place with your screws, it pushes those spring connectors against the eye ribbon and it makes the connection right there. So no longer are you jamming things into anything. It's all there already. And everything comes apart super easy right there. Same kind of setup, locking in the front. It's super cool. But like I said, I want to remind everybody again, these are not final production grips that are on here. This is what they sent me so that I could at least get my hands on it and get everything done for all the videos we need to do. I don't know, is there anything I missed right there? I'm going to go ahead and put this back on here. And then I'm going to, when it's together, just kind of have it so that it's sitting out so everybody can see it when it's together. So I'm locked in. That's what I'm looking like right there. Put my bolt back in. Right there. I'm going to power it on. Am I not pushing the button down? No, I am. Maybe I didn't. I got the battery in there. Crazy. Let me see what's going on here. Let me just take a look. Maybe our battery died? All right, so we're back. I needed to take a second to figure out what was going on because the gun would not turn on. Couldn't get it to turn on. I put it all back together, putting the battery in, wouldn't turn on. I was like, oh great, this brand new gun I got, it doesn't work or anything like that. So I took the battery out of the TM40, put it into this one, didn't work. And I'm sitting there going, what is going on? I'm taking the battery, I'm putting it in, putting this in here, and I'm like, I know both batteries are charged. Something I didn't look at when I first took the battery out. And maybe if you go back and look at it, you'll see is it seems like, because we're used to putting the battery for this gun, right? We take it and we put it in, and this is what it looks like when we put it in there. This is telling us all the lettering is like this. We put it in, we drop it down, and then everything's good, and it turns on, right? Perfect.
Battery level
Everything's great.
80%.
But on this one, and maybe they're going to change that with the batteries. I don't know, because again, this is a gun that had not the final grips on it right here, but the battery goes in like this. So if you're looking at it from the side that has the lettering on it like this, it's actually upside down like that. And I wouldn't have noticed that until I actually looked at the gun from behind to see where the connectors are inside there, and realized that they're up on the top rather than down at the bottom. So normally we were putting them in like this in the old Lux. The connectors are at the bottom. Well, the connectors are at the top on this one. So I don't know if new batteries are going to come, because it's the same battery between the two guns, but new ones will be labeled with the label the other way around. I don't know. Maybe that is something they should bring up. I'm not sure. But that's why we do these videos. That's something that I would have just put it in there. I'd be like, oh, great, the board went bad, something like that. No, I just had the battery in backwards. So took the battery, flipped it around the right way, lock it down, powering on.
Welcome to the
All right, so we're going to do that. We're going to put it together again. We're going to close that. We're going to close that. We're going to put this on. All the things we did last time. And then
powering on. Welcome to the Lux Experience. Battery level 40%.
There we
Firing
go.
mode NXL.
perfect. So we're ready to go. It's got a shot counter. We've got a motor in, BBS, battery, locked, eyes, all that stuff. You can see the ball. It's reading right there, reading my finger. So we're ready to rock. So now that my heart can stop beating so fast right now on this brand new gun that I thought that I broke right away, we can put it back together and let it rock and roll out the door. So awesome. This is a new setup. I like the gun. I've always been a fan of the Lux. I've always thought that the ergonomics for it were great. For me, I like a longer gun. This gun fits that build for me right there. So if you're interested in one of these, I definitely recommend checking one out whenever you can. The Idol is here. It's ready to go. Check one out. Shoot one if you can. Pick one up. Get one in your hands. Whatever you need to do. The brand new Idols. All the colors are up on the website right now, so check them out. Get your brand new Idol from ansgear.com.